Hello, toy friends. Welcome back. I'm Will. This is the 1-8 team. That's a place, where we could get together and talk about my favorite scale, 1/18 scale. Not to say it's better than anyone else's, or we think we're better than anyone else, because, we know it. No, just kidding. Just happens to be my favorite. And this time of the week is, for me, my favorite time because I get to hang out with cool dudes and talk about, stuff I like. But if I just sat here talking to myself, it'd be pretty boring. That's why I always hang out with my buddy, Jim Largo. How you doing, buddy?
You are such a size queen. You were all about the 118. What about my big guys? You got no love for the big guys.
I do.
What's up, buddy?
I like the big ones too. Well, today...
That's what somebody said. Anyway.
We have a really special guest. And, I'm not one to really... I'm pretty modest. I don't brag too much, but there was this show I went to last summer, Joe Fest, and I was there and I noticed this really lonely guy just sitting in his car.
Oh,
kind of like he looked like he was hungry and he wanted someone to eat with him. So I was like, you know what? Me being the cool guy I am, I'm gonna just pop into his car, introduce myself, and no, I'm kidding. Big fan of
you just jumped
Chad.
into a random stranger's car at a convention.
Yeah. Big fan of Chad for many videos watching him, and met him at Joe Fest. Terrific dude, awesome guy, and
Chad's here.
Old friend.
Dude, I didn't get the memo.
You didn't get the memo. So let's go ahead and play him in. We got a little introduction for those people that don't know who he is. This little
Everybody
role
knows
here
Chad.
will let you. Yeah, they'll introduce you to him. So let's play this and we'll bring him in. Chad, welcome to the 1-8 team, and thank you so much for coming on the show, man.
Man, that was great. That was fantastic.
Photobombing son of a gun. So nice.
Don't get into strangers' cars. That's how you wound up getting your face worn on somebody else's body. Dancing to Goodbye Horses and stuff. I don't know. But,
wow.
To quote Joe Pesci from one of my favorite movies, My Cousin Vinny, everything that guy just said is bull. Hello, gentlemen.
How's it
Howdy,
going?
howdy.
Hey,
Stellar.
let's say hi to the chat, and then we'll get into the show. Lots of people here, so thank you everyone for showing up. Mr. Ian Sweeney, he's going to be catching up. He's not feeling well, so Ian, I hope you're feeling better. Get some rest, buddy. That's what replays are for. And we got Jeff Morris,
Earl Grey. That's what you need.
Yeah, he liked the thumbnail. Chad and Largo never looked better.
I loved it.
Yep. And Bjorn, he's hitting up a few dollar stores. Everyone, just type in chat if you're looking for anything. Bjorn will get that for you, shipped free of charge. He's a real nice guy. I actually just got a package from Bjorn. I'll be doing a video on it later this week, hopefully.
I don't need anything, but you can't have too much Final Faction, can you?
Nope.
Just saying.
Laxervac, how are you? And Gojitron also working. He'll catch the replay as well.
You know what? Everybody needs a solid replay squad. That's how those live streams stay relevant. So, I always love
Gatorade Bob. How you doing, buddy?
Yep.
I'm having a great weekend. Roll Keeper. Hello. Mr. Cardboard himself, a world made of cardboard. And Weird Fantastic Toy Adventures. Very
Yeah.
cool.
lot
Let's
of
see
awesome
who else
names.
is here. Boba Hicks. Yes. How you doing, buddy? And I think, we got Pericles. How's it going?
Mm-hmm.
Patrick.
Black Knight from Helladope's here too.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Oh, and Roberto from Robert's Infinite Realms. How you doing, buddy? We got Eric. I don't think I've seen you in the chat. Maybe I have, but welcome if it's your first time. If not, sorry. Let's see. Who else is here? Black Knight.
Yo.
Redazzle. Or, yeah. Yeah,
Yep.
Redazzle. What's up?
Yeah.
How you doing? Scott. What's happening, Scott? Skyfall. How you doing?
Yeah. A lot of rad people.
Awesome.
Very
Well,
cool.
we got a show today. I don't know, how on the rails we're going to stay. No, we'll stay on the rails. We've got some stuff we put together, but it's not as news heavy as it usually has because we have an awesome guest today. So we're going to talk about a couple subjects. This is the 118.
What's up with my head over there?
I don't know, man. You just pop up all over the place. I don't know why you do that. So
It just
Let's put our
naturally
guest up where
happens.
people can see him.
yeah. So the 118 for today. This is the wrong.
Wait
date.
a second.
So-
Chad, did you threaten people to show up over here? Because HJC says you enticed him to come over here. Was there candy involved? Muffins?
I never threaten good people, but some people want this guy back. So.
Skid mark. Okay.
Nice.
So
I mean, he's going to
yeah,
quit
he's a
in like
favorite.
5 minutes. He'll just randomly fall. So whatever.
So, although the date's wrong, the subject matter is correct. We are talking Joy Toy World War II, Hiya G.I. Joe, doing some O-Ring updates. We're going to talk about the mech contest. We're going to chat with Chad about the evolution of G.I. Joe 1/18 scale. I messed that up too. So, let's get on with it.
I love a good.
So here's
power
our
play.
special guest. It's Chad. Just wanted to go over some of my favorite memories with him. The time he ate my chips. The time we took awesome photos together. This was just a great photo, not a photo
Nice.
bomb. But I did spill Chad's coffee minutes before this photo, and it was like the third time that day. So look how nice he is about it. He was a
Was that
little
on my poster?
no, I don't think I did your poster. I think someone else did.
Hans or Gaz did that.
Yeah, but I went like this to turn, to get into the picture, and I smacked the cup out of his hand. And,
Yeah,
All
I'm a
weekend,
klutz.
everyone was,
I
like,
use
knocking my
the,
coffee out of my hand.
Yeah,
And
I
then
use
this
the
was my
coffee sippy
favorite.
cup because I'm an idiot.
This is my favorite photo
Mm.
bomb because,
Aw.
and guys, don't worry. Chad did allow me to take a legit picture with each and every one of these people. But this one, because the Chad thumb came up and I was like, and yeah, there's some more. And
Look, see the coffee cup in my hand?
yeah. And for I think the laser pants one was the best because I didn't know he was there. And then his thumb just appeared and I was like, and I knew instinctively that it must be him. But yeah, good times.
I mean,
that was
that's
a great
how we
show.
make
Yeah.
those cool memories, you know?
Yeah.
Yep.
That's I thought I would
that's a
address
sexy
this.
T-shirt you're wearing in those pictures too. I'm
Oh,
liking that.
That is a very nice T-shirt.
Yeah,
I wonder where people could get one.
that's a good question. Inquiring minds want to know.
Oh, you can go to the Redbubble link in my description and pick one up yourself. But I had this later on in the show. I figured I'd just address it now, guys. The mech contest entries are due today. I do have three entries already, so they're pretty cool.
Nice.
We're going to show you those next Sunday. We're going to go through. We're working on a little sizzle reel, and we're going to go through and take a look at all the cool details. I have one to add to it, and look how much work I've done on mine.
Wow.
0. So yeah, I've got like a week to slap mine together.
Wow,
Mine
it
is
looks brand
most
new.
it looks exactly like that's what I did. I stripped it down, I painted it just like the original. So yeah, guys, if you want to get those in, email your entries to 118actionuniverse@gmail.com, and we'll show them off next week. But
so
thank
cool.
you to
Indeed.
everyone that did submit. So
Oh,
yeah.
Mikey from JMK's here.
Hey, Mikey, how are you, buddy? All right.
There he is.
Very cool.
Very cool.
So first up, Joy Toy World War II. I was pretty excited when I saw these because the Joy Toy figures are pretty awesome. I got even more excited when I saw, Chad, that where can we pick these up? Because that's the thing that really got me
Right. So
jazzed.
Helladope Toys decided that
Nice.
they were going to dip their toes into the pond of God's scale, also known as 118 scale. And they decided that they were going to kind of feel it out with the Joy Toy World War II offerings. And I thought that was awesome. So I, like others, just started blasting it out everywhere. Like, hey, not only do you get some rad, high quality 118 scale war toys, you know, because some people still make war toys.
Yeah.
But you're also supporting an independent company ran by a couple of really rad dudes that they care, and like their customer service is second to none. And I'm all about supporting that kind of stuff. So really excited for that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And, you know, I like the modern military stuff, but there's just something about those World War II uniforms. They're classic.
Yeah.
They were men's men. They drank their coffee black. They
Oh,
were
yeah.
angry. 5 o'clock
I went
shadow.
ahead and ordered one of each. Let's take a look at what the offerings are. So here's the U.S. soldier.
I got
Nice.
several of that guy.
It looks pretty cool, man.
Oh,
and
yeah.
you know, I went ahead and just kind of stuck them all together so you could see all the different angles. I don't know much about the weaponry, if it's accurate, if the gear's accurate, or the uniforms, but it all looks good to me.
Yeah. Yep. Got the waiters or the gators, whatever people want to call them. Then there's one with a grease gun, and then you see the other 3 shots. He's got that M1 carbine. Yeah, fantastic. Nailed it.
Yeah. Oh, nice. So we've got a couple new people have entered the chat here. Zaymont Rogue. Hey guys, just found your channel this morning while researching the new Eagle Force stuff. 118 scale, as far as I'm concerned. Oh yeah, it is the scale. Love your content. Thank you so much. I appreciate you being here. Thank you. And
Awesome.
so Jimmy, just as we were talking, says he doesn't like the U.S. Troopers shirt and gear. Doesn't look quite right. The Russian and German look pretty good. All right. Pretty cool. So
And that's okay.
yeah. So we got the
Well, and
US.
sometimes between what we see in the promo pictures to what we get final product, there may be some tweaks. So we'll see what it looks like and get it in our hot little hands.
And they don't just come with the figure and the accessories. They do come with several swappable hands, the removable helmet. So pretty cool.
Yeah.
We've got the Russian troop. I like him because the Russian guy's got so much stuff. Look at all the stuff he's got, man. They really loaded those dudes up. And they're saying the web gear does look a tad high. Wonder if it could be wiggled down. Texture looks a little ribbed. Okay.
Probably.
Well, I got to tell you, yeah, these are really good looking figures for $20. And Joy Toy stuff usually runs around 30, right? It's more like 30 and up. So I was surprised at the price. And I was surprised that also when you go to Helladope Toys, there's no like markup for it being, you know, they're charging the same price that you would get it from any other retailer. So that's just amazing. And you're getting superior service. You're supporting a small business, and you know,
and you
that
get
stuff is going to be shipped and wrapped correctly.
Yeah.
I've never gotten anything from them.
Our buddy Ted Darklaw, he hand packs and makes sure there's plenty of bubble wrap. Licks every package just for luck. It's beautiful.
Yeah, puts his rad germs on everything. Yeah, he and Aaron are just top notch guys.
Yeah,
they're fun.
Scott wondering if the Russian trooper opens up to reveal a smaller Russian figure.
Probably. Yeah.
And then we've got the German trooper. Looks great. Like I said, I ordered at least just one of each of these just to get my hands on them. Hopefully, you know, in the future I could get some more. But yeah, not bad. 20 is not bad. But definitely cool. So guys, pre-order now at helladopetoys.com. Head over there, click on it, There's a link in the description. Pretty awesome stuff. So, Chad, how many you built an army, huh?
I got several of each. Yeah.
Yeah. And just so I'm just gonna see here. I meant to do this. I have some of the modern military figures from Joy Toy, thanks to Mr. Largo here. And for vehicles, I guess what I wanted to see was, can these guys integrate into your, if you've got existing Joe vehicles? And this is more like a Lenore Decor vehicle.
It still does great for the October Guard.
Yeah, I think.
Oh yeah,
I think so. I think
Joy
so.
Toy is more of a true 1/18 scale. They're slightly smaller than the 4-inch guys, the Marauders and the Joes were doing in Pursuit of Cobra era. So should fit fine. Should fit just as well as an O-ring.
He fits a little. I probably have to play with his legs a little bit to get him fully in there. And some of the vehicles have more open space in the cockpit. So.
So what are you thinking, Chad, with these World War II figs? Are you going to do kind of like a little diorama, just them by themselves? Are you going to do, just have them hanging out on the desk, destroying, anybody that comes in with decaf or what?
I'm honestly not sure yet, but
guys, that's right here, Joe and Tell.
Oh,
this is Joe Recondo. So
nice.
For everyone that doesn't know him, he is like an angel in the toy community. Getting a message from him is always a wonderful thing. And we have some wonderful submissions he did for the community portion of the show. He did some toy hunts over the weekend and sent me some really excellent messages. So there's also a link to Joe's channel that he just started. So if you could go over there and subscribe, that would be awesome.
Joe's so rad. That's from Joe.
Nice.
See?
Yep. So he knew that I had a very long drive back to Albuquerque from Augusta, Georgia, and he put skid mark under my windshield wiper and said, so you could have a co-pilot. So now I take skid mark everywhere I go. I took him to Disneyland. I took him on all the rides. Skid mark goes everywhere with me now. And that's the kind of stuff that I love about, the word community. Sometimes I'm a little unsure about using that word.
Yeah,
it's a little
touchy-feely, huggy.
Yeah. The groups that we have, whatever you want to call it, like friends that we make and people we know, is that things like this, like I will always take the skid mark everywhere I go because of Joe.
That's awesome.
Very cool. And that's another great thing about the 118. They're pocket buddies. You can take them anywhere.
Yep.
That's right.
Always ready for an adventure.
So the next thing we have to talk about, my buddy and me.
He goes.
Is the Hiya G.I. Joe, which, for many of us, and I know, Chad, you covered a couple of these figures on your show. I've covered some of the announcements that have come out. So we'll take a look at what they have right now. And I think this is all the figures they have to offer. So you've talked at great length. A lot of these were based on designs that have made their way into the classified line, or somewhat, based on that. And they're 4-inch figures. This is the most modern, I guess, updated G.I. Joe we can get. And we'll take a look at, what they have to offer. Some of the things that we like and dislike about them. So you have Snake Eyes and Storm Shadow. I've never picked them up.
I had. So I purchased them. I opened them. I reviewed them both, which I don't really do toy reviews. But people were very curious about, the Hiya Joes. Some of the construction that Hiya does, and it's not just for their Joes, it's across Hiya brands. The way that the hands peg into the body is a little strange, because the peg is in the wrist, not in the hand.
Yeah.
So when you put the hand on, they tend to flop a little.
Okay.
The accessories are great, but I actually gave these away in a gift box to somebody that I thought really wanted them. But yeah, I did open them. You can see it, and I got a ton more info on the Hiya Joe stuff. But go ahead.
I had high hopes because Hiya did a really great job with the aliens from, the Marines from Aliens, the sequel, and of course they did that big APC. Oh, that is so cool.
I
That
got
is
it for
really
$90 on clearance.
Wow,
Yeah.
that's a great deal.
You know
That
what?
sucker was what, 200 new. That's a
No,
beautiful
300.
vehicle.
Yeah,
Yeah.
300. I just looked at it today because I was looking where you could buy Hiya G.I. Joe figures, and they have all the other Hiya stuff, including the APC. That thing's like $300. That's a hell
GameStops
of a
that
deal.
still have it on clearance. And it was marked
Interesting.
down to $90. So
That is
So-
definitely worth picking
and
up.
that's actually Sal from
My-
2 Cents Toys. He hooked me up. He called me. He's like, "Hey man,
Nice.
I'm in GameStop. They got that APC. You want it?" And I'm like, "Send me your PayPal. I don't care how much."
I love
Yep.
the fact that Sal, even though he's not currently collecting, he's still got an eye out for collectors. He's like,
That's
I'm
right.
still a toy guy.
You never lose that. Yeah, even if you're out of the game, you're still kind of in it, you know.
Can we hover
My
right
one-
here for a second?
I was
Yeah,
gonna
sure.
say my one caveat with these Hias is it's like they're just shrinky dinks. They're the classified designs shrank down. It's like
Not the
they're not
Commander.
the class. Well, not the Commander. That's true. The Commander is definitely an improvement. But for some
So-
of them, like with Firefly and the Major Blood, it's like I don't know. I'm just not digging it.
So, okay, the impetus of that, if you look at the Commander, he's the one who he's kind of an amalgamation of a lot of different Cobra Commander designs. Cobra Commander was designed from scratch by Apro Studios. So Apro Studios has said that he has designed other figures that don't look like shrunk down classified counterparts. And
Cool.
those will start rolling out soon. So they're not all going to look exactly like classified in a 4-inch size. There'll be more that are kind of like this, because if you look at this guy, he's got the Resolute helmet, he's got the vac metallized face, but he's got the armband or the brassard as they're called. He's got a lot of old and some new. I really like this design of the Commander that Apro did, and he's
Does
got
he
a
have
lot more
blood
that
stripe
are
on his
coming.
trousers. I
Yeah,
can't
he's
see.
got blood stripes.
Yeah,
Nice.
he does. Yeah. Yeah, I think they all look good, but it's we'll get to it later. Another thing I noticed is you see it's 105 millimeters, right? So so far all 4 have been that. And then when we get over to Destro, he jumps up to 110. So Destro's a little taller than everyone else. That's kind of cool. I really like that. I think that with today's technology and stuff like that, like I understand back in the day, all figures were 3 3/4 inch, or all figures with some minor variations. You can do that. And we'll see later that, even some modern company just adds a little bit of realism, I guess, where you could have 2 men standing next to each other and one could be, a head shorter, and that's okay. So what do we got here? Jeff,
Hey, Jeff.
likes the look of Cobra Commander.
Mhm.
Nice.
He's
He's
tempted.
tempted, but he hasn't pulled the trigger. I'm tempted on all of them, but we'll get to it in a couple of seconds here. Is they don't make it easy to get these. So Destro looks pretty good. I mean, he's a basic Destro. He's got the briefcase. Yeah,
It's
he
classic.
looks pretty good. Yeah, he's a classic Destro. Firefly's an
It's not-
updated
yeah.
compared
not-
to his
yeah.
original.
It's not a pimp daddy Destro, which is good. I like the classic black and red and silver.
Yep.
The Firefly, I don't like that. I don't
The
know what
collar.
that.
Yeah,
Yeah,
I don't
it's
know.
the collar. I know it's
Yeah.
like a bomb squad handling kind of look or something.
Yeah.
I get it, but I don't like it. Anyway, that's just
That
me.
reminds me kind of wasn't that like kind of his look in the second G.I. Joe movie? He kind of had like that bomb kind of vest.
A little bit, but that was kind of more along the lines of Renegades,
Yeah.
where he had the collar.
I don't think that. I think like the little drone and the bomb there are cool accessories and everything, but and he would be geared out, but I always loved Firefly, and this one I'm not thrilled about.
Well,
I'm more of a
he's a
yeah, I like
saboteur.
Resolute.
He's not ordnance disposal. Why is he going to wear that big flak vest? He's not gonna,
And then you've got Flint and Lady J, and then you could see with Lady J, they tuned her down a little bit, so she's 102. Not too much, but just a little bit.
You
What
have
do
to
you guys
give him
think of
credit.
these?
It is hard to do female figures in the 1/18 scale and not have them look a little fugly. They did a pretty decent job on the sculpt.
Yep. but I've seen these show up, and that's the point of this whole thing, is that I've seen them show up on a lot of news, toy news sites, and you could even go to their website and you could slap them all together. Oh, we have this guy. I'm sorry, I forgot Beachhead. What do you think of this design of Beachhead?
I kind of wish they'd given him the bray actually sitting on his shoulder, because he shouldn't be wearing it with the.
It's supposed to be tucked under his applet. I don't. I never understood why they made him wear it. Like,
no,
why even bother with that as an accessory?
But yeah, would he really wear that over his
no
ski mask or whatever you call it that he's wearing there? It does look a little weird, and they do have pictures on the. They have pictures on the website of him wearing it differently, or with that off there. So
it is removable, so that's good.
Yeah,
because
it is removable.
Just to get your
yeah. This is all kind of pointless, because when I went to the Hiya website and I put all these in my cart, I did get this top message on some of the figures. Only available to pre-order in China, Thailand, India, Philippines, Singapore, Malaysia, and Indonesia. Then when I went to check out, shipping not available. Your order cannot be shipped to the selected address. Review your address. Review your address and ensure it's correct, and try again. So I'm just going to manifest a new. They should just say these are not available in the U.S. or at this price. So you could buy it from some third-party retailers, but there is a markup on it. Right.
I just put one in the chat because Chris was saying they're not available. Yeah, Cotswold Collectibles is where I ordered Cobra Commander from, and there's a couple other avenues. And then I'll get into other stuff whenever you want.
Yeah, so this is pretty much just where my journey into Hiya. Like, you see them popping up on the news, people are reporting on them, you like them, but there's no clear direction of where you could pick them up. And like, I know Cotswold, Jim, I think you said you saw them on like Hobby Link Japan is willing to sell them to you, and then you have to pay to ship them over here. But the major retailers like Amazon, which carries all the other Hiya products, you can't find the G.I. Joe there. Big Bad Toy Store. Entertainment Earth. They're not available. When you search G.I. Joe.
Yeah, it's just unusual, because usually with something, especially anything Joe related, people are like, hey, let's import this. We want it. But not this. Even the 3-0 stuff, the taller guys that they're doing. Love their designs. A little pricey and kind of hard to find, but they're importing them.
Yeah. So yeah, Jeff is saying Coco is available for pre-order at Nerdzoic also for $35.
Right. So the way that it all breaks down is, so first of all, I got Snake Eyes and Storm Shadow from a Chinese retailer, and their price was actually really good. Now it's China, right? So you kind of have to like wing and a prayer it if they're even going to show up.
Yeah,
but they did. And I got the two of them shipped $50. So they combined everything, and it was actually very reasonable. But that being said, the reason that you won't see Hiya Joes on your regular avenues, Amazon, Entertainment Earth, Big Bad Toy Store, etc., their contract states they can only sell in Asian markets. Now, they can sell them to other vendors who will buy them and mark them up. Nerdzoic, Cotswold Collectibles, because that's a Western Hemisphere place. That can happen, but Hiya is not allowed to sell their Joes the way that you see their Alien stuff, all their lines, or Judge Dredd, etc., etc. There's a reason behind that. A lot of times people don't, especially these big corporations, they never want to give you the why of something. Why are they called Mad Marauders instead of Slaughter's Marauders? It's like crickets, they don't want to tell you that stuff. However, there's a reason why Hiya's contract is Asian markets only. I'm not going to get into that right now, but I will at some point. So,
yeah, and that's kind of the reason I
just don't want to say why.
Yeah, I brought it up was because, one, at first I thought like the Snake Eye Storm Shadow, they were the first ones. I thought it was like a one-off, and the line didn't take off and we weren't going to see it. And then I kept seeing these new characters trickle out, and I'm looking at them, and then I'm going to look for them and I can't find them. So I'm like, who better a person to kind of clear the thing with than you, Chad, because I know you have a little more experience with them, but look great. I think it's a
got a
good
guy.
product. I got a guy. I think it's a great product and I'd love to see them, but I just don't understand the reasoning because G.I. Joe, as we all know, is a real American hero, but he's not available to this. He's only sold overseas. It doesn't really make sense. You'd think it would start here and then spread out across the world.
It's the same thing with almost all G.I. Joe products. You see people in like South America getting like these classified pre-orders before anybody else, Europe, the UK, etc. Like these people are already getting their HISS tanks.
And while I'm glad they do it, I also question like Hasbro, like, why wouldn't you just do this? Because we're going to see later on in the show, we have got this touches on the subjects that we'll be discussing later a little more, like why they're making the decisions they make. Why would they, send it out to a third party? And
Mikey says Greg at Cotsworld is a good dude, which is true. Yeah, so
that is
Cotsworld,
true. Yeah.
Yep, totally the place.
So we've got some O-ring updates, my friends. First up,
Nice.
I just want to say ZICA Toys here. They have a wonderful assortment of stuff. I've bought, a lot of their stuff in the past, the Sectors and the Captain Action stuff. Also that Riot Trooper, beautiful figure. The Retros Kickstarter ended on 11/15/2023, and unfortunately, it did not fund. I had been promoting it every week on the show here and talking about it. We're just going to take another quick look at what they were doing, which I think is pretty interesting. And I do want to point out one thing, not just looking at the figures here, but when you look in the center of this picture, these are 3.75-inch scale, classic O-ring construction. They have swivel wrists, which is an upgrade.
Yep.
Swappable accessories and swappable heads. These is like an O-ring plus. I think that's really nice that some of these companies that are doing O-rings are innovating on the design. The wrist, even a thigh swivel, if they could figure something out there, would make the poses a little more dynamic. I don't know if they need ankles, but it probably wouldn't hurt if they do it right.
A boot cut would work.
When I had him and Chad LaForce from the Undead Operators on, they were talking about a shin swivel at the boot.
That's right.
So I don't know if they actually put them in the retros, but
they also did. They also did something with the upper portion of the leg, so you don't see the seam. It's one piece, and I kind of forget the details of that, but I know that there was something there too, an improvement.
Now the fist line is still going to go out, just in a different scale. This was just the 118 versions that didn't make it through the Kickstarter.
Yeah. The fist line is still going out there. I would have loved these guys. I 118 scale O-ring orcs. I just love it, and I don't know much about the story behind it. I just loved it looking at it, and I really wish it succeeded. Then they also had the Pocket People and the Hamilton's Invaders. Yeah. And that was,
it may come back around. Now, I'm telling you, if they had gone with Village People instead of Pocket People, it'd have been gold. YMCA, baby.
Well, I'll tell you,
that mercenary is a good army builder, though.
Yeah,
I really wish they had gone through. In the meantime, if you want some good O-ring style action from them, you can go on ZICA Toys or ZICA Toys website right now. Order this Eagle Force Retro Riot Commando for $15. That's a hell of a deal. Right now, there's a link in the description. It's a great figure.
Modern construction of that Riot Trooper right there is so good. I love that figure. I got a grip.
Excellent. So, I mean, I don't know if I know that you know them. You've actually had them on your show before, right? ZICA Toys and talk to them. I know that they are a toy company. They have other means other than the Kickstarter. These may not be gone forever, or just like Easy Kill 9. Yeah. There may be some way in the future that we will see these being made, and I would love to see that happen. I think that both of those lines, although they didn't make it, were great ideas. I supported them, and I wish they had made it. What do you think, Chad?
You know, never say never. The only thing about running a Kickstarter is that if you have a Kickstarter and it doesn't really go, like you can maybe, you know, regroup and then try again. But generally after 2, you kind of want to hit the brakes.
Sure.
So,
Okay.
a lot of it is timing too. There's so many other lines, you know, and
Yeah.
a lot of it comes down to the marketing too. Like,
Yeah.
are you doing like at least weekly updates? Are you keeping this in like, are you keeping people's attention? Are you keeping it in like
Well,
in that
we
fun
talked
vibe?
about it before the show. I think a kick-ass theme song for every new toy line is a must. They should come up with that before they even start showing the figures. You should just
Hell yeah.
get your face melted off, and then you're ready to see the new toys. But
Yeah.
Jeff's saying $15 is a great price for that figure. I think the orcs make me wish someone would do 118 Creature Commandos. Oh, from Weird Toys. Where yeah,
Ooh,
cool.
that'd be
Can
fun.
you highlight Chris's comment? Hasbro can.
Hasbro can make, but won't. Super 7 has rights in the US otherwise. Ah, okay.
So that's a yes, but a no.
Hmm.
So
Okay.
Super 7's contract was to make 5 POA reaction Joes. Now reaction's just reaction, right? It's all sorts of IPs.
Yeah.
When Super 7 was about to launch the Cobra mothership, their contract was rewritten. And again, this is something that I'm going to get into at a later date. There's a lot more information than just this. Their contract was rewritten to include O-rings because all of the risk falls on Super 7 and not Hasbro. However, their left and right limits are still animation. So they can do like your Admiral Latimer, your Raven, right? The
Okay.
female Night Raven pilot. They can do all those characters from animation. I asked, does that include Resolute and Renegades? Because that's animation, right? If we're splitting
True.
hairs,
Yeah.
that's animation. The answer I got was unknown. But
Oh,
it does cover Sunbow and Deke for sure. Just
Okay.
like their 5 POA did. Waiting to find out if it covers Resolute and Renegade, but there's this animation. Hasbro will continue to do 118 classic O-ring figures, right? I'm air quoting all this stuff.
Yep.
Only with the Transformer crossovers. And the next
I
2
wouldn't-
after
yeah.
the Triple T are already in the shoot. But
oh,
Okay.
okay.
the person I know doesn't work on Transformers, so doesn't know who they are as of yet, but whatever.
I would love to see a return
Speculates
of
the
the
long
Resolute
answer. That's the long
era. The Resolute designs were awesome. I loved all of those
Yeah.
Joes.
So
Mikey knows.
HGC
Mikey knows. I called Mikey on the phone and I'm like, dude, I called him on the phone. You know, it's Mikey.
HGC says those retro riot troopers are legit. Do I need more? No. Will I get more? Yes. Yeah, I
Yeah.
would too. Yeah,
Because stuff, right?
they are badass.
Stuff.
So yeah. Yes, I want that Triple T. Speaking of Triple T, Joe, that one that you showed me that I'm going to show later. Now, did you do that paint job, or was that something you just picked up? I was going to ask you, and I forgot before the show. So I'll give
He
you
did
time
the
to answer.
stickers, and he was
Okay.
like, "I'm really nervous about putting your stickers on, man." And I'm like,
Okay.
"Tweezers and a Q-tip, you'll be fine. Just take your time."
Okay, because he sent me some really cool things.
Yeah.
Speaking of O-rings, Legends of the Hidden Force, the backer kit is open until 11/30, 2023. 2 weeks left. It says here they only have 15 backers to go. I think they only need 12. I checked right before the show. And they offered some nice things. So you could be a backer. Well, one, you could go all in and get all the figures, which would be cool, but that's $270. But if that's not your budget, pick up one figure, because I'm picking up Road Pig. I didn't back this fully because I just don't have the money for it. I'm all in on Operation Recall, Call Sign Longbow, Delta 17, and others. And when Legends of the Hidden Force came around, I was like, my wallet just was like, no more. But I am going to pick up this Road Pig, Ninja Force Road Pig, and maybe another one. So I'm at least picking up 2 figures before the 30th. And you can too. $25. Pick up a figure. You could get in on it. Any figure you want. And you could also pick these up, which are compatible with all your 1/18 scale figures. So you can pick up a $12 leading edge accessory pack or a dominant force accessory pack, and look at all those great weapons you get there. That
Get
they
yourself a foot wedge today.
That's right.
One thing about this line that I thought was cool was the, wink and nod to the unproduced 95 Ninja Commando Joe line. As soon as I saw a freaking road pig, I was like, there it is, right there. Even though I don't like, ninja plural in my GI Joe headcanon, like it starts and stops with Storm Shadow, but it was still cool that they put the care into this line with that throwback, the deep cut stuff.
Yeah.
Oh yeah. And there was that huge ninja craze, when we were kids, that was like every other movie was a, American Ninja or
I still watch Revenge of the Ninja all the time. I love that movie.
It's fun.
Hey, I watched American Ninja 1, 2, 3, 4, and I think I kind of punched out by like 3, but because they replaced Michael Dudikoff and they just had like, hey, I'm the new guy. I'm also a ninja. I was like, wait a second, there can only be one American Ninja.
And then there was all that stuff. Like you even had the Master on TV with Lee Van Cleef and that kid.
Yep.
Yeah, there Ninja, everything, right? Ninja Turtles.
Excellent. So I got where is it? I think I lost it. So Jeff was just saying he thinks what hurt ZICA toys was that they look nice enough, but there's just currently too much competition.
Mm-hmm.
You got a point. There is a lot going on. We did see a really, there's 5 or 6 going on simultaneously right now. That's one thing about like the whole Kickstarter thing. It's kind of you get this like feeling where it's like all or nothing. You have to go all in on it. Whereas like if a toy line came out, you could kind of, I mean, even though they do this with like classifieds and Marvel Legends too, where it's like this, if you don't jump on it right when it comes out, you don't get it. Some of the stuff goes to clearance, but I would like the ability to pick up a figure this month, next month, and maybe over the course of 6 months, you complete a wave or a collection over the course of a year, a little more casually and not having to like, do a $200 or more investment, wait 2 years for your figures to come in, type of thing. I think it just, I wish there was a better way.
I think storyline matters too with, the Hidden Force, with Delta 17. There's a storyline, there's a lore that's going to come with it. And for me, that's a hook. I want to know that this has got a world building aspect to it. That's what made
that was
Real
my
American Heroes such an awesome line.
That was my draw to Action Force. I know we're not talking 112 scale, but like I'm looking at Classified Joe and I'm like, it's just the same old thing. There's not even a story. They're just like, here's the same dollies you remember, just bigger, but at least Action Force is like something new. And all these like Call Sign Longbow, Delta 17, yeah, absolutely, all of them. They built lore and a world around this stuff. It's not just like here's a nothing associated with this.
Yeah, but I prefer like I say about Action Force all the time on the AF3 show, that I do with Jim every other Monday. I like that it's familiar. It harkens back to the things that we loved in the past, but it's new. It's a reimagining of it, or it's the evolution of it, rather than just rehashing.
And I'm not trying to derail talking about 112 stuff, while we're talking God scale. But that being said, you were talking about casually get a figure here and there. What are you doing? The goat?
He went off scale.
angry. Whatever happened to, little dolly business models like what Kenner had with Star Wars, where all of those figures were always available throughout the entire run? Every single one. That. Like, why don't more toy companies do that? Like, I understand you're reusing the mold for different colors. That's okay. Like, you can change it up. You can go back. Yeah.
And that's one of the things I loved about the Mego superheroes and the Big Joes was I beat the tar out of them, and they would get retired, and eventually you'd replace them because they've seen some hard life. Nowadays, if you don't get a couple when they first come out, it's like I'm not going to be able to get the same figure.
Okay, so Joe did reply that he did not. He bought that from a gentleman he met at Joe Fest that does customs because it looks beautiful.
Nice.
Regardless, it looks great, and we're going to show the picture later. But
Joe did the stickers, and I'm
Joe
proud
did the
of him.
stickers, so
Good
we're going to have to
job.
take a look. And Beta Ray Bob, I did get the Soundwave Thunder machine. We're going to talk about. Oh, he was asking Joe, so forget it. I'll just.
Yeah, he
see my
doesn't
way
care
out.
if you bought it or not.
I'll see my way out.
You're just like,
Yeah, I like the concept. I was just a little leery because with some crossovers, it's like it doesn't do either one well. It's not great as a robot. It's not great as a Joe vehicle. So I was kind of like, I got to see some people get this thing and play with it and see if they like it or not.
I gotta say, the Mega Hiss, the Megatron Hiss tank, scales perfectly with Hiss tanks. It's just in my wad of Hiss tanks, and aside from the different armament on the top, you wouldn't even notice. It's the exact
Would you say that
size.
it's more than meets the eye?
Yeah.
It's probably in disguise.
The worst. So last night I talked to a buddy of mine, a good friend, and he's not in like the toy community. So I was showing him the two, comparing them, and he couldn't tell the difference. But when you do take that back plate off, because it's more of like a parts former, where you have to actually remove parts and change them to. But Megatron's face is like right there, like, hey guys, it just looks silly.
The face sculpt is great, though.
No, yeah.
The face sculpt on that
good.
Megatron is like it is
And,
dead animation. Yep.
Like I said, I did a review of the Megatron Hiss when I got it in, and I just said, for Joe fans, it's a perfect representation of the vehicle. For Transformer fans, they're probably the ones that are like, because it's not. They had to make some to cram it into, shoehorn it in.
Is this one where you have to have an engineering degree or understand physics to be able to twist it and put it in the right thing?
I have not transformed it out of his tank mode since I transformed it into his tank mode.
He's not that bad. It's just dumb stuff like, why does he have a shield that's the ass end of the Hiss tank? Like, why does Megatron need a shield? Why is he wearing a shopping cart on his back? So like there's a couple of things that
yeah.
So
we'll get into those, but as far as Legend of Hidden Force, guys, you have until November 30th, and if they do hit the 200 backers, I think everyone gets an exclusive character. Everyone that went all in, so you'd be helping out everyone by doing that. So I think they only need 12 backers to go. You could even pick up an accessory pack or just a single figure. So that'd be really cool. The next one we have up here is. And there are some comments. I think we maybe should just go check them out real quick. It would be cool to get another O-ring Sarge. I believe you get Leatherneck as well. That we will talk about that in just a couple minutes. Yeah,
that's
a cool
selling point.
Yep.
All Marines all the time.
Yeah, everything else is probably just, Robertson from Realm, just seconding what Chad said, explain my biggest complaint about Classified at this point. My Classified join Action Force is remnants of the old Joe team. Cool.
That's
a cool.
Yeah.
I think they do. Yeah. And Chris just saying at least Joe's were on the shelf for like 2 years at major retailers. Then whenever, Five and Dime sold them. So yeah, they did have a much longer shelf life, and the production schedule wasn't so hurried or rushed, where you felt like you had to overspend, I guess, what you'd be buying normally, like your toy budget, where you're buying a whole wave because you're afraid they'll be gone and unavailable.
The false scarcity thing really that chaps my hide. Just like, how do you sell out of a freaking pre-order? You haven't made them yet. I hate that.
It's engineered like that, and that's the thing. Now they don't do. They'll do waves, but their waves are like haphazard and weird. Like, whereas it used to be like Chris was saying, Joe's were on pegs for 2 years, but they would say like, here's the 83 line, and they would release the whole freaking line. Now it's just like, here's a couple, and then you're just like waiting, and then they're like,
it seems like
here's a render of one that's coming in 18 months. Woo! Like,
it really.
I think the thing that kind of turned me off with the way they did the Classified release. I mean, the Fortnite, cheesy whatever thing that they were going for. That aside, the figures weren't a team. They weren't cohesive. It wasn't, this is a wave where they all look like they go together. It was like they were taking Joes from different eras of the team and just throwing them out there. And it's like, these guys don't really go together in this. Yeah.
Just dartboard approach.
Yeah. It would be nice. Well, we don't have to worry about that with this next subject because this is, in my opinion, the evolution of the type of G.I. Joe thing. It's an O-ring line, it's modern military, and it just kicks ass. So Delta 17 coming soon. Guys, sit down, grab some popcorn, because I want to show you just a little something here. Excellent job, guys. Jim Largo, everyone. Jim Largo, just awesome. Great job, buddy. And I think Beta Ray Bob,
I gotta say,
don't hire me because I make crappy slides and I forget the dates wrong. Jim Largo's the man.
Hey man, Delta 17 did all the heavy lifting. They have it so dialed in. They have a great storyline. They have a great product. They have great packaging. They're going to have a freaking comic book. I'm in love. I'm loving it. I'm loving what they're doing. So it was really easy to put that together.
Just toy lines need media. Whatever the media looks like, it needs media, and it needs media that's relevant to the toy line. And again, going back to a certain G.I. Joe line that I'm air quoting loosely, there's no media. Like, you go by the comics and it's like, it's not relevant to now.
Yeah. We're still doing the same thing over and over again. And Delta 17 takes it to the, it's the evolution. We're in the modern times. We're dealing with a modern enemy, and these guys are going to be fantastic. As a matter of fact, I so love the Delta 17. My mech is going to be Delta 7 Retrograd. War Machine that I'm going to paint up. I've got an old 92 base that I'm converting into a Retrograd facility for the mech. And I've got a couple vehicles. This one I'm just using kind of straight out of the box for Delta 17. Cool. This will be
Little
one
bird,
of their,
baby.
Yeah, one Beautiful. Of their little vehicles.
That's a great toy. Yeah, that vehicle is fantastic.
So, guys, this is coming soon, sooner than you think. Within, by the end, before the end of the year, I'll just say, and you could buy them directly from the manufacturer. They created it, they funded it. They've got the
Yep.
product. It's all coming in hand. So you're going to go to delta17toys.com, sign up for the newsletter, wait for the alerts. We'll report on it as soon as it comes out because I can't wait. But you'll be able to buy one or all of them when they come out. So I think it's really great. For more information, go over to Toy Connections. Ken, he's written a lot of the profiles. He's working on the comic book, and he's been helping out this line. So he did one on the heroes, the villains, and he also did a great video on all the new O-ring lines coming out. He covers all of them in one video.
Great videos. And Ken is such a super fan of this genre of, military O-ring, cool designs. So it's really fun to watch Ken light up when he starts getting into this stuff.
Yeah.
It's like,
a couple of things that they did really cool. And, you could watch some of the previous streams. If you've been around, you've seen, we've talked about it, but, two of those characters on the Delta 17 team are 4 inches. The rest are 3.75. Rooster and Preacher are both like taller gentlemen.
Big guys.
And they have 3 army builders that you could get. You could get the Delta Trooper, the Okami Robot Ninja, or the Thunder Battalion. And I believe the Delta troopers come in both Caucasian and black. So you can get a white guy or a black guy, so you can mix them up too. The Thunder Battalion, they're just all white Russian guys, so you can't get.
I love the fact you've got named characters for all 3 factions, and you've got army builders. And they're, like you said, Chad, here it is. Here's the whole line coming out all at one time. It's like, sweet.
What a freaking novel idea, right?
I know.
And Will, can you throw up Scott's comment/question? A lot of toys are based.
A lot of toys are based on video games. Does G.I. Joe even have a video game? They had Operation Blackout.
I know.
Which I played.
No,
I
they have a better one.
Here's the thing about Operation Blackout. What?
You reviewed one that was pretty good. It wasn't Blackout. It was another one.
Oh, the mobile game? There was like a mobile game.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. No, that's not a mobile game. It's on Switch and PC for right now when it releases, which I think is dumb to not have PlayStation and Xbox, but it's a side-scrolling, sprite-based kind of beat 'em up. Yeah. Yeah, it's called Wrath of Cobra. But yeah.
So it's like Contra? Is it like Contra?
It's like the Ninja Turtle side-scroller that just came out.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, I did a video on it. The thing about Operation Blackout, I guess a lot of people either A, didn't play that game, or B, didn't look in all the weird little nooks and crannies of that game, because there is a lot of production art and a lot of art that they got from Hasbro. So the retro Cobra Commander that Classified put out, they had the artwork for that figure in the game years ago. And they show like the Classified aesthetic of all these characters, and then they show like an updated kind of original. So the Destro's there, the Firefly, the Major Blood, like they're all in there. So
yeah, the game was not a AAA title by any stretch of the imagination, but it was still fun. I played through it. I had a good time.
It had some really cool.
I can smell some sarcasm coming off of Robert's comment here. Just a tad. Yeah, they're not promoting their stuff well. I mean,
you know who Wolf Spider is?
It's not that they're not doing some
rip off of Beachhead version 3. That's what it is.
I know.
Version 3.
Yeah. It's just a lot of misfires over there.
Yeah,
I don't get it.
Also, a really good Delta 17 article over on toyhabits.com. So you can go check that out as well.
Oh, yeah.
Look at all that picture that they released of all.
And it was not a Kickstarter either.
No.
Which is rare and pretty awesome. So
pretty awesome. Yeah. Love it. So guys, that's
What's
it
up,
for
Rolando?
Updates. Oh, Rolando, how are you, buddy?
Yeah, and Roman the dog too.
Roman the dog.
Where'd he go?
I do want to just say, I did notice right here, it does say, and thank you, Chad, for this, because there's 38 people watching, and this show is usually under 20. So I just got to say thank you for that. Thank you to everyone watching. If you could hit the like button, that'd be awesome too. But yeah, that's great. So thank you so much.
This is the kind of stuff that I think more people should, kind of gravitate to and rally behind, because, 118's not dead. I know a lot of people like to
Yeah.
say, "Oh, 118 scale's dead." Like just
Yeah.
because one company decided, like, meh, we're done with
Yeah.
that because we can make larger dollies with the same mold and make more money, and just make less.
Mhm.
Doesn't mean 118's dead. 118 is far from
Far from it. Yeah. And I will say, this was something I thought of when I heard you were coming on the show. I thought we'd talk about an evolution of the 118 scale as it pertains to G.I. Joe.
Do it.
From vintage to modern and beyond. Kind of take a trip down memory lane. We could talk about the things we like, the things we dislike. I probably got some of the dates and errors wrong on here because I got to tell you, real quick, I had a hell of a week. And a lot of this show came together like minutes before it aired. But like I said, I look forward to this. So let's not worry so much on the specifics or any mistakes in the slides and more on the
I need to get
overall-
you one of these. As you know, I've been having a lot of problems here. So I've been using this a lot. I flip the coin. It's either going to be a foobar or it's going to be a snafu. It just depends. I flip the coin, one or the other. That's the day we're having. So
I like that. I like
I'll
that.
send you
Amen.
one of those.
Yeah. So we've got, the original G.I. Joe, a real American hero, 82 through 94, O-ring construction. I know they went from straight arm to swivel arm battle grip at one point. People love these. They were my favorite as a child. You guys, Jim, I know you said you preferred the 12-inch dolls. You were more of a
Well, it's because of that's where I started. I mean, this Land Adventure was my very first Joe. It was my buddy, my fuzzy head guy, Kung Fu Grip. So when there was that, weird time where they went to the Super Joe and it wasn't successful, it lasted for a minute and just didn't go anywhere. And then there was nothing Joe for a while. And then all of a sudden, we see this new Real American Hero on the shelves. And it's like that first line, all with the OD green, and you had cool characters that was very different from original Joe in the fact that they all have call signs, they all have file cards, they all have backstories.
Yep.
And some of them come with a particular vehicle and they're drivers or they're specialists. It was like, this is awesome. And, it got into some weird stuff here and there, when they went to space or the toxic, was it the Echo Warriors or the Headhunter stuff? That was down the road when they were just pulling some weird stuff. But original stuff, man, I thought it was awesome. And again, it was the story, and especially Larry Hama's, comic book stuff that dovetailed with it. You couldn't miss. It was great. And so it was all over the place.
Chad, were you into the O-ring line, the original?
Oh,
you never
absolutely.
liked that, right?
So, a lot of things had to transpire at specific times for G.I. Joe, a real American hero, right? So we're talking 82, 94, real American hero. For that whole line to come out the way that it came out. So 1979, Bob Prupis and Kirk Bazigian, they started pitching Operation Blastoff. They wanted to revive G.I. Joe, but they had to thank Bernie Loomis and Kenner for the 118 scale, the 3 3/4 inch, whatever you want to call it, right? It's all the same. It's apples to apples. And that whole world building for giving them more to pitch, because they were like, hey, Star Wars is doing this. We can do this with G.I. Joe. And, thank God for the creatives of the time, because if that was today, they'd be like, hey, let's do Bullet Man and Eagle Eye Joe in this size, right? Because they wouldn't come up with anything new. So they came up with all new stuff. And Joe was radical because not only was it always diverse from the beginning, but it also relied on these hyper articulated figures versus the Star Wars 5 POA. And it was the articulation, the snap on, stay on accessories, as Kirk likes to say, that really sold G.I. Joe. Things were interchangeable, lots of detail, removable panels, all that stuff. But again, you have to thank Star Wars, because if it weren't for Empire Strikes Back, G.I. Joe would have came out a year earlier without the file cards, without the flag points. And all that stuff was Kirk too. Like flag points was Kirk, blueprints was Kirk, and then everything else was like Larry Hama, Ron Rudat, and they all just piled together and released this awesome thing. And Yes, I've been into Joe since 1982. Casey from Podcasts from the Pit, he and I were discussing this where like Star Wars was in that weird, like the original 21 was kind of done and everything was like white, hot, plastic all the time. And it was a little, and then G.I. Joe came out and I saw the Joes on an end cap in one of my local toy stores in 82. I saw Flash. He was my first Joe, fell in love. And, I've said numerous times, and anybody who knows anything about me knows that Joe shaped my entire life. My career choice, the only career I've ever had. Yeah.
You got to give some love to that card art too. It was one thing with like Fisher Price Adventure People and the stuff that came before, but we're also in that smaller scale. The card art sold the toy. And Joe understood that in the original, the big explosion behind him, the great artwork. It's like you see that picture and you're like, dude, I want this guy in my collection. That's awesome. I don't know what he is yet, but I got,
Yeah, and you had the original art for, that ran from 82 to 85, and then they changed it to the digital explosion and so on and so forth. And then they had different card designers and artists and whatnot. But one thing that a Real American Hero had that a certain, I don't know, I call it the large pretender line, does not have is they had consistency. I mean, this is a Headhunter Stormtrooper from Battle Corps, but you still know that's G.I. Joe. Yep. Some of the artwork changes, but there's still like a continuous visual language. It updates, but it's still the same size card.
And that whole thing of no freaking file card on the back of the box, that bugs me.
Yeah, or the file card, but it's one little sentence and then it's repeated in multiple languages. Not that I'm
the 5L. Yeah,
it seems like just not great.
It's phoning it in. It's not putting the attention to detail that it had back in the early 80s. They really put attention to detail to all the stuff that went around the figure.
Yeah,
like you said, the blueprint,
it wasn't
the artwork.
Any one type. It wasn't any one thing about the G.I. Joe line that made me a fan. It was a culmination of all of those things. From the figure with the improved articulation compared to other figures at the time, the comic. It was the commercial that got me in. And I know I've told this story before, but I asked my dad for G.I. Joe. He came back with a big doll, and I cried. Hey. I was 6 years old. All right. So don't get on me too much because it wasn't the one I wanted, but I did the Vamp and Clutch were my first Joes. Then I picked up
Breaker.
Nope. I got yeah. And that was my favorite. The vehicles were my favorite. When I was a kid, even younger, my older brother did a lot of models, like the model kits, glue together ones, sniffing tons of glue. I turned out all right now. But they had to snap together model kits. I used to love the fact that you could build the vehicle. And even though I made mistakes sometimes, that was one part. I know they did it as a cost-saving measure, but for me, it was one of the most fun things about G.I. Joe. But, I digress. We're talking more about the construction. They did not change the construction of their figures from 82 to 94. They didn't add any improvements. They didn't add any features. They probably
Will from 83. Thank you.
Oh yeah, sorry.
The swivel, the battle swivel was the big innovation.
I forgot the swivel, but they pretty much remained the same. And then they took a hiatus for a couple of years, and they came back in 97. There was another O-ring line. I didn't include it here. They were basically remakes of the older ones. Some of the names were changed around, some of the paint schemes, but they were pretty much like
they lost a lot of the trademarks.
Yeah.
And that's how you got Chameleon instead of Baroness, et cetera, et cetera.
And I did pass over when they went 5-inch, and we're jumping right to 2002, because that's when they decided to change the style in which they made the figures, which is really
now before we jump into that, I kind of want to know more about the backstory here, because I know this was kind of that weird transition where Hasbro gobbled up Kenner. And so they brought in some Kenner designers, and I think they just let them have at Joe. And I don't know what happened. We got some weird stuff. Is this where we got the G.I. Joe Extreme and all that other stuff that came out?
Right.
Okay.
Yeah. So Beta Ray Bob was saying that Takara was doing 3.75 and 74. Yeah, like everybody was doing that.
Yeah.
Even the Palatoy Action Man went to 3 3/4 before Joe came out. But it was
Action
Kenner
Force
Star
original.
Wars that the
Yeah.
Joe team used to pitch it. So I'm not saying, yeah, Kenner started it. I'm just
No.
saying that was the impetus of Operation
Well,
Blast Off.
Kenner blew up and
Yeah.
was so
Yeah, and Hasbro just saw dollar signs
Yeah,
when
yeah.
Prupus and Bazigian were like, we could get in on this.
That's
Anyway,
the point, not the latter.
So-
I guess is what I'm saying.
so Hasbro bought Milton Bradley, then they bought Kenner Tonka or Tonka Kenner, however you want to actually that, right?
Right.
All based off of the sales of G.I. Joe, right? So G.I.
Interesting.
Joe is the brand that allowed Hasbro to become this mammoth company that it is now. When they bought,
And that's not the
Kenner
first
Tonka-
time. Even back in the day with the 12-inch, when those
Yeah.
came out, it blew the company up.
Yeah.
They were doing great sales, and
Right.
then the Vietnam War kind of
Sure.
put a kibosh on some of that. But they came back. So several times Joe has saved Hasbro.
3 times, actually. 3 times G.I. Joe, that one IP has saved them from closing their doors. So they buy Kenner Tonka, and then they start absorbing all this stuff. And then that's where you see like Joe vehicles like the Detonator having like Nerf darts, et cetera, et cetera.
Mhm.
The
Yeah.
Play-Doh bio armor in Mega Marines. But when they bought Kenner Tonka, they knew that Kenner was going to try to relaunch Star Wars because of the anniversary stuff, and they put a halt to that and did Star Brigade instead. Fast forward to 1990, it was like late 93. The 94 line wasn't out yet. 93 was Joe's second biggest year. So to say that Joe was crap was false. But they got all these Kenner people in Cincinnati not doing anything. And they're like, well, this line's been running for, 11, 12 years at that point. And they're like, so we're going to stop a real American hero, even though you're talking like right after their second largest year. And they're like, we're going to give it to the Cincinnati people and just let them do whatever they want. And so what the Cincinnati people decided to do was extreme, right? So they did G.I. Joe Extreme.
Those were the character ideas weren't terrible, but the sculptures and the non-articulation was horrible.
Yeah, I think it definitely detracted from what G.I. Joe was known for. So it was
And
just
then
too
not to-
Yeah,
far
because it
of
was
a-
so not Joe.
Not to mention, there was a parallel Joe line that is
Yep.
Joe, right?
Which was good. Yeah,
they
Sergeant Savage.
killed Sergeant Savage before it was even on shelves.
Yeah, it kind
Why?
of came out as clearance, and now those were, and this is it is a good point because it's not one.
They're a little larger.
They were, but
Yeah.
they were basically constructed the same way.
Yeah, they're the
And-
exact same construction. They're just like 4.5-ish inches. Actually,
Yeah,
I haven't
right.
used a tape measure.
And Chris also,
But
just
again, they had
mentioned
a
that added
a
swivel arm
spin-off
battle grip.
storyline. They had the great cartoon, artwork. Was it Coop?
Yeah.
Who am I thinking of? It was a comic book artist that they got to do some of the work. What was the
Yeah.
name on that?
Oh yeah, it was
Andy
I
somebody.
don't know.
He's done a lot of great stuff, both DC and I think he's dabbled in Marvel
The-
too.
the
But
guy
anyway, the
who did
artwork was
Sergeant
great.
Rock,
The story was
because-
good.
Yeah,
Oh, it
Kurt
was,
Bazigian grew up with Sergeant Rock, and he wanted to do something that was like it was Joe, but it had like Sergeant Rock homage, which
Yeah.
Sergeant Rock, Captain America, whatever.
Yeah.
But they made it
Sure.
something new. Yeah, it was the guy who did Sergeant Rock.
The enemies in that
Yeah.
were cool. The whole line was cool. I didn't realize that they didn't really support it. I just wasn't
No,
into
It was
that
it
era
was
of
killed
Joe.
before it came out, and like I think I just saw it on the shelves, with no. It was packaged with the VHS. It's a big
You
package.
got the P-40 Warhawk, which is
Yeah.
a gorgeous, gorgeous toy, and then this sucker, which was actually
Yeah.
supposed to be a 1995 Battle Corps Rangers tank for the Joes, and it was supposed to be like the XM1 stealth tank or whatever.
And do
And then
you
they
think
just repurposed it for Savage.
do you think the change in scale was because that's what everything else was coming out, because this was the mid 90s, and Toy Biz really did kind of come in there, and they were pumping out Marvel stuff, which is all about 4.5-inch.
Yeah, the
Um,
Secret War stuff or whatever.
Kenner was doing all those like movie licenses where they kept reusing the same molds over and over again. You had all those figures. So do you think G.I. Joe changed scales to try and compete with or fit in with that? Everything had to get like kind of bumped up a notch.
I
they
wouldn't
look
say
better.
no if
Yeah.
we're just like postulating, because all the conversations I've had with Kirk, you know, because we're cool like that.
Yeah,
I never necessarily asked him why the change in the scale. I did get an answer on why did they change the file cards to the baseball style file card, but that's a different conversation.
Gotcha.
I wouldn't say no, but you know, Joe with all the sub teams with that whole Steve DeGuano like Joe as a language thing. They started doing the brighter weapons and things like that based off of other lines. So your Ninja Turtles, your Captain Planet, things like that, Jurassic Park. So they did make some changes to a lot of their visual aesthetic based on other lines, but I'm not too sure about the scale.
And before I forget, just because Chris brought up that comment, you know, when we were talking about the original Joes, they did add the ball
85
to the neck
in the head.
And that was
for 85.
That was a difference there. So they did update it slightly, but you know,
what was going on with those
remained the
wilderness years,
same.
though?
But did he say actually? Because if you don't put actually in there,
actually,
no, I don't think. I think he did.
Yeah,
forget
see,
that.
then I wouldn't acknowledge it. You gotta actually,
there were some weird eras that I know Chad has delved into, and he's found some golden nuggets in there. The Valor versus Venom. There was another line that was in that in between phase.
Joe versus Cobra.
Joe versus Cobra. Some of the vehicles were cool. Some of them were kind of wiggy, and the figure construction was just off from what you would
take a look at
expect.
this.
Yeah,
because
but if you look at that Cobra ring neck vehicle, that is probably one of the most bulletproof Cobra vehicles ever, and I love that freaking thing.
Because here you see, you know, in 2002 when G.I. Joe vs. Cobra came out, they tried something different. And you'll see in this picture alone, like the Viper, they just kept the same. That's the O-ring figure, just remade. They didn't even redesign them. But
I like the Beachhead design, the update to Beachhead. He looks good.
Yeah, but they did a skinnier waist. Do you see that waist? And then it looks like the arms are much bigger. And I think they did that because they were switching to like plastic rivets, maybe, or something, and they had to beef that up. I don't know. Are they still metal rivets on those? I don't think they are. They felt cheaper. All of the figures have like these.
I don't know.
Well, I got one right here. It is plastic. Well, here's a Built to Rule Wild Weasel, and I think that's why they thickened them up. I could be wrong, but they switched, and as you could see, some of the a couple of characteristics. One was some of them had really tiny crotches. Some of them had T crotches, which were like they were like Star Wars figures, you know, with just like a plastic T crotch. Some of them went with the O-ring, and others were just kind of remakes of old O-ring figures. And their heads. If you notice, some of their heads are extremely tiny. Did you ever notice this about like that era?
Yeah.
So just some strange design choices, some cool characters, still, you know, vehicles and playsets were pretty neat.
Yeah,
I know
there was a lot of anatomical exaggeration.
Yeah. They were just, I looked at them on the shelf, and I remember they were really big in like KB Toys in a couple places. And then they kind of went on clearance in a lot of those places. It's like, I'm not digging this. This isn't the Joe Real American Hero I remember when they first came out. It's like, I don't know where they're going with this.
Well, if you look, these are good examples too, like the direct-to-consumer, which was like right after that. There were some really good figures in this line, but most of those were like mostly remade O-ring figures. And then a lot of really bad ones. Look at those Scarlets down at the bottom with those tiny, tiny heads.
Yeah, some of them were a little wacky.
Yeah, they look pretty ugly.
But there were a lot of new characters that came out at that time too, like Mikey was saying, you know, like Barrel Roll, and then there was like you had Bomb Strike debut, and you had a bunch of other guys, and a lot of new characters came out.
Maybe she's on the next.
There is that, and we've kind of touched on this, but that's kind of one of those black eyes for Hasbro that on more than one occasion they have let their rights to certain names lapse, because it's like this is a great line that you guys should take care of. And it's just like they just left it in the corner and neglected it. And then all of a sudden it's like, oh, what do you mean we can't use that name anymore? I thought we owned it. Oh, we did own it, but we let the copyright.
So we can't call her Baroness now. But they also did cool stuff like this, where they put a figure with like a little vehicle, and They had a lot of fun little mini sets like this.
They
And
did
I
great
got a bunch
packaging.
of these just sitting
Yeah.
around that I
Yeah.
never opened. They're just pretty fun.
Yeah, they're not bad. Not bad at all.
Yeah.
So, that was just something that I never understood. It was just a weird time. I was like, you want to congratulate them for trying something different, but maybe they should have ran that by a couple more eyes before they produced them. Or
I didn't like the gadgety stuff, like with the Nerf missiles, or they had a couple of weapons had like little sparky things in them for a minute. It was just like, you don't need gadgets. Joe is Joe. Give him good vehicles, give him some decent weapons that'll fit and are in scale instead of these giant things.
I like the detonator. I like the detonator.
Did you?
I do.
Teach their own.
Oh, guys, the show has to end. We've had a disagreement. We've had a difference of opinion. We cannot have this in the toy community. Basically,
hater! I'm a hater.
Jim Largo just assaulted Chad live on air, and I can't believe it. I can't stand it.
Indeed.
Oh,
it was
Jim,
vicious.
Your words hurt me because you're not validating the reason why I like the Cobra detonator. Now I'm going to leave, and I'm going to go like personally bash you in a bunch of toy groups.
Yes, as you well should. That is the proper procedure.
You are following proper. Yes, proper.
That is a measured reaction, good sir. Let me get to it. Yeah.
So then, this is the first time we actually got an update to the construction.
They're all naked.
The 25th. Some, I gotta say, these are not my favorite. There are some that I like, but I think they look weird. I just think they look weird. I don't know.
The first out of the gate with what we just generically call the modern construction Joes from 2007 on. Yeah, you can see like really exaggerated shoulders, but most of them have like super skinny arms.
Yeah.
Some of the heads don't. Like, if you look at that gung-ho versus the 50th gung-ho, it's completely night and day. It wasn't really until like 30th Pursuit of Cobra where they really started hitting that stride with like sculpt and dialed in that modern construction style.
This was kind of the construction style that they were doing on like the Marvel 3.75-inch line back then. Where
the Marvel Universe line?
The Marvel Universe figures. So I think that's where they got this from. And then maybe kind of had to, because, it makes sense for Spider-Man to have 4,000 points of articulation, but does Duke need to be able to do the Spider-Man pose? I don't know.
No.
And the ab crunch thing that they added in here, I think it was way too high up. Like it's right under the pecs, and I think it should have been lower down. And you'll see that later. They kind of, the top portion where the swivel is a little more at the waist, and not because they were swiveling. That's like you bending at your ribs, Like,
yeah, because they're designed like that. My biggest beef with the 25th anniversary, aside from some of the anatomical issues like the massive shoulders but skinny upper arms, the ones like you see there with Duke, some of them, not all of them, had that weird mid forearm wrist articulation, and it breaks up that line. It's just an eyesore. And then when you try to put them in certain poses, that forearm, it like separates. They don't. It
looks
like
odd.
Yeah, they don't.
Yeah, it's like
so
if you're going to have a military toy line, they need to be able to hold a rifle properly. As long as they have that articulation, you don't need to go overboard. You don't have to go.
But
Spider-Man,
you saw that
Gumby,
mid forearm go away.
Yeah,
it went away in the future years.
Oh yeah, and Mikey, proportion issues were from the previous lines were not fixed in the 25th. And then Robert just saying, "Oh wait, you know what, Robert? You didn't put actually there in front of it, so we're gonna have to delete your comment." No, he said, actually, Marvel Universe started in 2009, so reverse that and go get a new life. That's not nice, Robert. That's not nice. To correct me.
Chris says, "I hate modern constructed anything. I would rather have 5 POA. F your ab crunch." Wow.
Yeah. Ooh, yeah. I mean, you should tell us how he really feels. Yeah.
Yeah. So how do you really feel, dude?
50th anniversary, they improved. You see, Gung Ho looks a little nicer. They lowered. You see where they lowered. Duke still has the crappy pectoral ab
Look,
crunch.
that Duke sucks. The screaming
Yeah.
face Duke sucks.
Oh,
But yeah, that gung ho he's money. Hit and run. That's my favorite version of Shipwreck. And then there's your Steel Brigade.
yeah,
Indeed.
that's a great figure.
I love the Steel Brigade. That was a great design. I just like them.
And
and look at that Viper. That Viper is so good.
The Viper's I
It's
like
cool.
the Iron Grenadier. I never knew about that figure, although his hips look a little weird. I don't know why. It could just be the pose the figure's
He
in.
doesn't look like that.
Yeah, and the Chuck Norris Outback there doesn't look bad either.
Yeah.
So where was the inspiration? Was it, chicken or the egg thing? Was it the inspiration from the comic designs that were coming into the toy line, or was it still the toy line dictating what was going into the comic lines, or was it just kind of a crossover? It went both ways.
I guess
I
it
think
depends
they were-
on who you ask.
I mean, you see,
Okay.
there's like new character.
I'm asking
There's
you,
Shooter. There's Shooter, the third one over on the top, and a female
Uh-huh.
Cobra officer
Yeah.
introducing this line.
Now,
Were
all
they
those
give us a
female
little
Cobras are
bit of
fantastic.
I got to ask you a lore question because you're more adept on this. The original Joes, Shooter was kind of like the secret one that was never there, but was there from the comic book all the way back in the beginning, at least by name. How does that? Where did that come from? Can you explain that and expand?
When they show the computer screen where they're like picking the team and whatever, off to the very far right of the panel, cut off by the edge of the computer screen, it says Shooter, but you don't really see a head, right? As I just smacked myself in the hat. You don't really see a head. That was an Easter egg for Jim Shooter at Marvel.
Okay.
So that wink Shooter was a dude based on Jim Shooter, but because they never really showed Shooter, it wasn't until years and years later that they decided, okay, like we're going to do a note like Jody Craig, we're going to do like a no shit Shooter. And that's where she became Shooter.
That's good, Mark.
He
go down.
He held up pretty well most of the show.
Yeah.
I actually hit him. So right. Yeah, right. I'm Italian. This is how we talk, like this.
That's it.
Yeah.
So then, I know there was stuff in between, and they went to the collector club exclusives. It got harder and harder to find them. I was out of collecting from like 2004, 2005 till 2018. I didn't really pay attention to these things. So I missed all of that. And then I come back into collecting. I think the year they stopped making them, which was like 2018. But it was limited. They were like convention and online exclusives only. I wasn't doing that back then.
Well, remember, all modern construction Joe went to Toys R Us.
Yeah. Oh, okay.
And that's kind of what started the downfall of the modern Joes, like you're talking in the 50th anniversary era. Plus, you would be remiss if we didn't discuss the fact that while the 25th anniversary run, it was the foil backs, it was the comic version, and it was the cartoon version. So depending on if it was legit 25th with the seal or comic or cartoon, that depended on what the card back looked like. So you had all of those modern Joes. Well, here comes Rise of Cobra, different aesthetic, different looks, different card back, different designs, different price point. They were more expensive, and they're on the pegs next to each other, and Hasbro's direct competition is freaking Hasbro.
Yeah.
So then,
not smart.
The retailers are getting different feedback from their numbers. Like, well, these aren't selling. And then Hasbro's like, well, these figures aren't selling. It's like, you're competing against yourself. Who wants to buy Channing Tatum Duke in that weird desert camouflage when I can go get this Duke on a foil back that looks like Duke, right? And not Dookie. So, and this one's, the one that looks like Channing Tatum's even more expensive. And then they did the exact same thing with Retaliation, and that line got held up for a year. So it was all messed up. Then they said, you know what? We're just going to take all modern Joe and we're going to chuck it at Toys R Us. But because of Bain Capital, Toys R Us was already going down.
Yep.
And so it's literally like everybody's shooting themselves in the foot at that time. It was just
and the media was kind of
stuff.
goofy too, because there wasn't a Real American cartoon, but then they came out with Resolute, which was that webisode, so good. I wish that line had gone bigger.
It was on cable.
Figures.
Yeah, it was on cable. It
Yeah.
was it 6-10 minute or 10-6 minutes? I don't remember.
Something like
actually.
that. I remember
I
watching
think it
it
was
back
10,
then.
but
And
yeah.
yeah.
The webisodes, and
And
then
then
they
they-
did them all on Adult Swim as a movie, and then that was awesome.
So
And
good.
then they went to that Renegades thing, and it was like, this is such a letdown after Resolute. Resolute was so good. Why
Renegades
didn't
is
you?
like Mark Weber's thing. Like when he was the brand manager at GI Joe. When you talk to
Not
Weber,
great.
he's like, "I love Resolute," and or Renegades. I will say that the kind of modernizing update of what Cobra is as an organization, because the word terrorist since 2001
Right.
kind of a hot button item, but other properties will touch it all day long. But for some reason, Hasbro and we're uncomfortable because it's a war toy. Actually, it's not. It's not even a war toy. You just see it as that.
No.
Daring Highly Trained Special Mission Force doesn't say war toy only. But yeah, like Scott says, Renegades equals A Team. And that's what I
Right.
told Weber. I was like, yeah, I liked Renegades when it was called the A Team.
Yeah.
Yeah.
The
Their
premise
update
wasn't
to
bad.
Cobra as an organization was kind of cool because they didn't just rest on the same old like, oh, here you
And
go.
I mean, it could have been that. Do you think Hasbro was just kind of where it was competing with itself? It kind of just maybe got too big for its britches. It was like, we could do this, we could do this, we could do this. They were trying to do everything at once.
Yeah.
And instead of
Hmm.
focusing on one thing and doing it well, they did,
Gee, you mean
multiple
like
things.
the glut of Star Wars stuff that's just kind of out there in several
Sure.
different flavors and scales?
So
No,
But
they
I
haven't
like
learned
this
it.
comment from HGC that there is such a thing as too much articulation so that the damn figure.
I say that all the time. Articulation should never take away of the art because they're pieces of art, and you shouldn't like hyper articulate a figure to the point where like you're taking away from the sculpt. And that these 12-inch or these 6-inch figures with this weird like ab like cutout, it just looks gross.
Yeah.
There's a
Yeah, I
sweet
don't-
spot somewhere between
Anatomically, they look like ass.
Yeah, McFarlane doesn't do enough articulation. He likes to make statues that have a couple of pieces that are bendy, and then you
Staction
have
figures.
like you're saying,
Yeah, because Mattel
yeah,
was doing
and then
that
you
a
have
long
on the
time ago.
extreme, you have the ones that have like 200 points of articulation, and they're so articulated you can't. Yeah, you have to have a stand with them because they won't hold a
Mhm.
pose. There's a sweet spot in between. Harder with 118 too. Too much articulation, the smaller scale, it doesn't work.
We've got Mikey here saying, for context, the initial 25th line had a lot of the same issues that Marvel Showdown 4-inch line had,
Oh
which
yeah, forgot about those.
actually predated the Marvel
Actually.
Universe line. So yeah, I think that's goes into the over articulation thing, where it's nice to have them, but. And then Chris saying those O-ring comic packs were great. Yeah, those were great packs. I do have a couple of those. Those are nice.
I like what Beta Ray Bob said. He says, I think Eagle Force has just the right amount of articulation. Agreed.
Yeah, perfect. And then
this
a lot of
Eagle
it
Force is really nice.
It's not the number of points of articulation, it's the execution of them. Because if you take an Eagle Force 4-inch figure, and then you take a 6-inch, say, Marvel Legends, same. Ankle rocker, wrist, right? Whatever. Maybe not up here on the shoulder, but
yeah.
I never counted them. I'm just saying, like, they are fully articulated, but they don't take away from the artwork. And Eagle Force does great jobs with like paint apps, tampos, washing, all that stuff, very high quality. And again, most of that is Matt LaCroix. So
good design.
That's good.
Got to shout out my buddy.
Currently, Hasbro has reissued some O-ring figures. They did a couple. I haven't picked these up. I think I might have the 2-pack, but I never opened it yet. I've seen mixed reviews from people saying that, as far as they just didn't update it. They redid some key characters. And I got to say, like, doing some Cobra Troopers would have been a nice thing. People have said that the product doesn't feel as solid as it did in the past. And
the plastic is real weird. It's almost like holding a Black Major figure.
Okay.
Mm.
So it's like lighter. It feels kind of not as I guess
it's off.
Substantial.
I have the Lady J from that, and it's like, she doesn't feel the same, and it's just it's not terrible. It's just not great.
My Baroness that came with the Megatron His tank I just thought it was weird because her eyeglasses, it looked like they paint it separately from her skin. So they have like flesh tone and eye painted on her glasses, but it like doesn't, it's to me, it's just a minor thing, but it just bugs me. And then we had these guys,
I
which
give
was
those figures away.
the,
people want them. I'm just like, that's cool, man. Here you go. Pay it forward.
yeah. So this was touted as before they came out, they were doing a retro line, Walmart exclusive. This was kind of a disaster. I mean, one, they were really hard to find at first. They were showing up in some places, not in other places. You couldn't get them. If you looked on Walmart.com, they were available by third-party sellers on the Walmart website for twice as much as what they were charging in the stores. But then they were everywhere and then going clearance. So I was able to pick up I did pick up a bunch of the Cobra officers and Cobra troopers for like $5 each, and some of the grunts because they were like $5. They had like a sale, and probably one or two of each of the carded figures.
It was just a head scratcher though, because it's like they went backwards. They had dialed in all of the articulation and the design when they had the Pursuit of Cobra and some of the other ones in that era. Then they brought these out, and it's like they forgot everything they learned with those lines and what worked. And it's like, why'd you go backwards?
This line is like there's pros and cons to it. So
yeah,
when they first rolled it out,
Duke's head pro. No, I'm kidding.
So, right. Devouring the Whale in small bites. When they first announced a Walmart exclusive retro line, what's the first thing that every Joe person heard when they heard retro? O-ring, right?
That's right. Yeah.
Yes.
They weren't O-rings. So right off the bat, they pissed off at least half of the Joe collecting community, which I'm still not a big fan of that word. Trying to find a better word. They pissed off half the Joe people. Then when they did come out, they're just re-releases of the 50th anniversary figures, like the Snake Eye Storm Shadow 2-pack that you just showed in the 50th anniversary slide, the long sleeve Storm Shadow, which is his first appearance in the comics, which everybody calls, like Diaper Man or whatever. But instead of giving them the alternate heads that they came with in the 2-pack, they just put them on single cards. And the insult to injury of the Snake Eyes specifically, and the Storm Shadow, because they've got long sleeve Storm Shadow on a V1 Storm Shadow card, retro card.
Yeah.
And then they've got
didn't match
V2 Snake Eyes on a V1 Snake Eyes card when that 50th came with the proper head that you could have made him V1 freaking Snake Eyes.
One thing,
so they were just like smacking people around left and right, like, screw them, they'll buy it. Just put it out, they'll buy it. What do you want? You want caramel Snake Eyes and 6-inch? Buy it.
But then people at Hasbro couldn't find someone to like proof these things before they went out. Like,
I was going to say, I was just going to say, when your customer base and fans know more about your product than the people working on the line, that's not good. That's not good. But
again, that's Hasbro's thing for the longest time. Like, the days of the Hassenfelds are gone. Like, creative people like your Rudat, your Bazigian, your Prupus, your Delevia, all those guys gone. Now it's just like people with business degrees that know how to read spreadsheets trying to sell you toys. That being said, anyway,
that's something
the last two waves.
Will and I have talked about that idea that people who are really creative and good at coming up with innovative designs don't work well in a big corporate setting because they don't toe the line.
Doing it themselves.
They're mavericks. Yeah.
Look what happened when Hasbro fired Corey, right? When they fired Corey, now Skeletron, like Ben and those guys, they snatched him up.
Yeah.
And he's doing a million things for a bunch of different companies anyway. Like, Corey's being like completely creative now. But I want to get back to that Walmart retro line real quick. The very last two waves, Stalker and the Trooper and Grunt and the Officer. Say whatever you will about the paint apps on Grunt's face. The articulation on these figures, thigh swivel, boot swivel, ankle rocker, right? They got the nice PVC hands. They hold the weapons well. That Trooper and Officer, when you take the helmet off, the hair, like the sculpt on those figures are freaking great. The knives fit into the web gear. I bought so many of these figures. The last two waves, I ate them up. I have that Stalker everywhere. Look, He's sitting in my Battle Force 2000 vehicle. He's right up there on the
Nice.
shelf.
Yeah.
I have them everywhere.
No, that's great. And I love that we got like I know there have been troop builders for the G.I. Joe line, but I really wish the whole time they had just like the Cobra Trooper and the Cobra Officer, they just had Joe green shirts and like, different things like that. That would have been great. But
they did green shirts in a 5-pack with Firefly for Toys R Us. Yeah, those are great.
Yeah. Yep. So where do we go from here? Where does G.I. Joe go from here? That's where they're at. We have some of the things there. Can 4-inch and 6-inch be viable? Well, let's answer that question first. My thoughts on it, Star Wars does it. Why can't G.I. Joe do it? And one could argue that Star Wars G.I. Joe is kind of more popular. I don't know. Is it more popular than, I think as far as classified goes? Like people are talking more about classified releases than Black Series, where Black Series used to be the hot thing and everyone was talking about them. Can they sustain both? Is it viable?
If it was managed better, if you keep 118 vehicle centric and keep the vehicles and play sets and things that work with 118 in the line, I think yes. And then the 6-inch guys are you have a particular character you really like, you want that super detail on a bigger scale, great. You're just buying that to put on the shelf or play with, but it's not part of a whole world building thing like 118 is. That would be my thing.
I think to add to what you're saying, Jim, part of the issue with that is you have these people hijacking stuff where they want their original, a real American hero designs of these figures in 6-inch. And part of the whole social media thing is now these companies, instead of having a vision, they're too involved in listening to what people are saying rather than like, we're coming out with a vision. Here's the line, right? That's how it always was before. And now it's, oh, well, now you guys want vehicles to go with what are basically just dolly lines, right? Now you want vehicles. So now we're going to do vehicles. And so every argument about 6-inch scale always changes. They keep moving the goalpost, the people who are 6-inch collectors.
Yeah.
My running theory, I've said it a million times. Again, it's a theory. It's not to insult anybody. I'm not saying it's fact, right? Theories are based on observations, and then you just come up with a theory, and theories evolve over time. My theory is that most people who collect classified aren't Joe people. They're 112 scale collectors. And they just see 112 scale stuff, and they just start buying it. Totally cool. I'm not saying that's wrong, but like, when Hasbro announces the SMS or the Vamp and people are like, what is that? What is that? What's the scale of it? What's the size? True. It's like, you don't know what the Vamp looked like next to a figure. You don't know what an SMS missile system is. So like, there's reasons why I have that theory.
No, I think so, because Legends and then Black Series, which were the premier 6-inch lines, have been so popular for so long now that this is the next evolution. They're burnt out on their Legends. They're burnt out on the Black Series. Here's this new G.I. Joe now is coming in.
At the same time, though, can they exist together? Yes, absolutely, they can. Star Wars proves it. The thing that Joe has going for it, that's say a Star Wars or a Marvel, right? An IP that is, it's a franchise IP, like Hasbro doesn't own it. They have to create figures based off of media that another company has control of. And so that's where you get your Holdos, your Revas, like your stuff that people don't want. The MCU's going down. The Star Wars universe is pretty much freaking dead, right? So now Hasbro has these contracts with these IPs that they have no control over. And they're like, well, I guess I got to make a Rose Tico figure. But because they're beholden to it. They have to. Now, Joe could do, and right, I have stuff that I'm not going to bring up, but yes, can they? Absolutely. I'm going to say this right now for anybody who cares to like put this in the back of your brain housing group. Watch what happens with G.I. Joe in 2024-25. And then you will start to understand the changes that are coming to G.I. Joe. And it's going to be cryptic, but look at Star Wars.
Well,
That's where Joe's going.
The next part of that question is, can retro and modern coexist, or is that viable as well? Star Wars is doing that as well. They've got the retro, they've got the vintage collection, and they also have Black Series.
Hasbro's already got they've already got the bones in place for that model for G.I. Joe. Absolutely.
And then
finally, it's already in place. Like, you're seeing it start to unfold.
Yeah. Do we just keep rehashing these things, or do they try to innovate and create something new? We've seen how their innovations or changes, like, for example, those really awful figures in the early 2000s, they tried something new. They didn't implement it very well. Is it too risky for them to try something new? Obviously, if you're going to do O-ring figures, the ability to do hands and swivel wrists and, some thigh stuff. Like, I feel like if they're going to put out a line of O-ring figures, and the O-ring, the rubber band, is not necessary anymore. That was a gimmick kind of construction thing. It's totally not, it's a
use
liability.
Carson's idea.
Yeah. Which is, delete that and get that out of there. I know some of the newer lines are coming out and they are doing O-rings, and it's an easy thing to do, but do they innovate? Do they come out with something better? Do we get just something different, a new era of G.I. Joe in the 4-inch scale? It's maybe some of the stylings of O-ring with the construction of modern or something like that. You know what I mean? Like, or are they going to just keep rehashing everything? Do we have an O-ring vintage line, a modern line, and a classified scale line? Is that how it's going to be?
If somebody's driving the bus, if they have a plan, if they know where they're going, it could be done, I think. But somebody has to, lead, follow, or get out of the way.
I do.
That's the problem.
I do agree. I don't have many classifieds. I didn't collect them at first. I was in a Walgreens one time and I saw that Cobra Commander and he just looked really cool. So I bought him. And I think I picked up a couple other ones. I never opened or played with any of them. But the way that cut is on the abs, I don't like it. I don't think it looks very good. And, you don't see that on other figures. You don't have to cut it up there.
That's just their generic BS 6-inch buck.
Yeah.
Like, to me, and I am biased. I admit that I'm biased, and it's just my opinion. But my opinion is all of them look exactly the same. I don't care if it's Legends or Black Series or Classified. It's all the same. All of it. It's all the same. You just put different bells and whistles on it. It's all the same weird, gross anatomical structure. The very first Classified. So the man bought me Classifieds, right? Because she saw G.I. Joe and she's in this with me and she supports me, and she bought me all of wave 1 and 2 at the same time. The first one I opened was Snake Eyes. I pulled him out and I held him up and he was just like on that ab crunch, just flopping. And I'm like, this figure sucks ass. Like, ugh. They turned me off from the word go.
So as far as G.I. Joe versus Transformers go, this was some of the slides I had from last week, but I'm going to just go through them. Were you in on these, Chad? Because I know you did a couple videos. I mean, I bought them. I have critiques. There's things I like about them. Overall, I'm more happy they did it than against it. I really like them. I've bought every one so far.
The funny thing is, what you're looking at right here, this is an idea that's been in place since the 90s.
Yeah.
That a lot of people don't realize. This has been in place since the 90s, but either Joe was bigger or Transformers was bigger. There was never a time where they were kind of equal, but it was always a plan at Hasbro to do a Transformer with a Joe who could pilot the vehicle. And now you're finally seeing it come to fruition. I think it's cool. I think a lot of it, again, is the execution. So if you look at Bumblebee or the Bumble Striker versus the Mega Hiss, Bumblebee has vac metallized parts, and he feels very solid. The Megatron that could stand to have vac metallized parts is completely plastic. So there's kind of a disparity between the two, and mine are like this far apart on the shelf, and it's kind of night and day.
So
are they being manufactured in different factories or something? Or
I think it's just the design. I think it just comes down to the design. But he's got vac metallized parts. I can pull him down. But
I will say that this, like Chad pointed out, this was in the comics way back. You know,
Oh,
they did
yeah, yeah.
crossovers
Oh,
with
yeah.
Transformer and
Long
Joe.
ago.
It's like everybody was waiting for this to happen, and it just never really came together
No,
scale
it
wise.
didn't.
It should have.
I would have
the
liked to see them
Megatron
do
Design
that.
and the
Hiss.
idea.
Yeah, I would have loved to see the hit. Megatron is just like the cat.
The tank,
or
the
like
green and
that tank.
purple tank is what I
Yes,
wanted to
yeah,
see.
yeah.
But
Yes.
the hiss makes sense.
It's okay.
you know.
Yeah. So I ordered them through the whole the Hasbro Pulse website, right? And then on the Megatron His tank, people started posting pictures of it like a month early, and I went, "What the hell?"
Amazon.
Amazon
Yeah.
had it. I ordered it, got it the next day. As soon as I got it in, I canceled my Hasbro order. So when this one came out, I did the same thing. I just ordered it on Amazon. A lot easier that way. And I got the notification. It's supposed to be January 2nd. I got the notification. It'll be here tomorrow. So I'm like,
Are you
what
looking
the
at me?
hell?
Are you looking at me? Look at me. This thing's not even available on Amazon anymore to even do that.
Oh.
Cancel one and then
Oh.
because I did the same thing with Megatron. We were talking backstage.
Yeah.
I'm still pointing at it. We were talking backstage. I bought 2 for myself off Pulse. I bought 1 for a friend off Amazon. I got the notification from Amazon. I went and looked on Pulse. Still says January. This comes all the way back around to the long-standing discussion of what is it with this freaking company and their distribution, their availability of things. That
Right?
is the company. That's freaking home base for these items. But Amazon has them available first? No.
The
Absolutely
Megatron was
no.
over a year ago. Same problem happened. Same thing happened with
Yeah.
Bumblebee.
And that
Same
goes
thing happened with this one.
and it includes everything. Throw everything into that pot of stew. Why do pre-orders sell out? You know, if it's a UU thing, why is it
Yeah.
selling out? I understand if it's like an Amazon exclusive or a fan channel and you only get so many, but your pre-orders, yours for your company, it's a Pulse exclusive and it's sold out. It's like, would you make 6 of them?
It almost seems like Pulse is like the redheaded stepchild. It's like it has your Hasbro logo on it. Is it really part of the company? Because you don't treat it like it is.
And that's
because
the thing. Like, so if you look at like the UK, remember when they quietly were like, oh yeah, well, we're only selling to everyone in the UK through Pulse. But Pulse gets the stuff last. I'm trying to not swear on your channel.
No, that's all right.
Pulse gets the
We're not
stuff last.
yeah.
You know what I mean? Like you would literally have to smack yourself in the head with a hammer to even begin to think like that. Yeah, I love it, but I hate it at the same time. And this is why the grand scheme of everything, I'll just collect old stuff because I can find it easier, faster, less of a headache, sometimes less expensive. Yeah,
true.
And in better shape.
It kind of like when I first got back into collecting in 2017, 2018, one of the things when something came out new was I was like, yeah, the vintage stuff is really expensive. It's almost like reversed since I started collecting again, where it's like, it was like you were glad something modern came out because you're like, it's not as good as the classic one, but it's okay for, you know, the money without me having to go track down and pay outrageous prices for vintage. It was kind of like a good thing. They're making it modern and new, but now false scarcity, you know, jacked up prices going up on everything.
Engineered.
Yeah.
I just got a complete 1979 Kenner Death Star, the foam, the Dianoga, the box for less than I could get like
the Hiss tank,
the Dragonfly, the Hiss tank, you know, you name it. It's absurd.
So the next one, Triple T and Sergeant Slaughter. I get it. I know some people were like, oh, I don't like it, blah, blah, blah. But Cup and Sarge, because he was Sergeant Cup, Sergeant Slaughter, and then you got Leatherneck thrown in there too. I do kind of like that they're throwing in a third, an extra figure too, because you got 2 with the Thunder Machine.
Scott's asking a question down there. Is the Soundwave Dread knockout? So Soundwave Thunder Machine?
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, it is. That's the one we were just talking about. Previous slide. I'm getting
Amazon has it.
Yeah,
Pulse.
They're sold out on Amazon. You can still get them on Pulse, but they're sold out on Amazon. It's just Amazon's going to ship faster.
Hasn't even been released yet. This was like a leak that went around. Well, I know Chad, you talked about this a very long time ago.
A year ago.
just last week, someone, it was making the rounds. It's definitely on some kind of production schedule or something. There haven't been pictures or anything, but yeah, I think it's cool. I'll pick this one up as well. I hope they.
A year ago, it was
for me. Oh, go ahead.
A year ago, it was announced as this is the next Transformers G.I. Joe collaborative crossover, whatever long ass name they want to give it. And it just said the next one will be a triple T. There was no info about the figures or what the vehicle would transform into. It was obviously known it was going to be an Autobot because Soundwave. And that's the thing with the Joe Transformer stuff. It's Decepticon, Autobot, right? It's not Autobot, Decepticon. So Transformers World, they had posted that rumor leak a long time ago. And when I did my video about the Soundwave Thunder Machine, I found that on that TF World because that's where the Soundwave Thunder Machine came from. And it was just a little boop, right? I posted the rumor about that. I took my licks for it. But yeah, and it was just a couple of weeks ago that the actual product number and then the working title, because they all have like those code names, those were both announced, and then that it was Cup with Leatherneck and Sergeant Slaughter.
Yeah, I mean, I have gripes. I wish they were less expensive. I think $90 for the Megatron was a little much. They lowered the price with Bumblebee a little bit. It was like $60. I thought that was a little more reasonable. Soundwave with the two figures, that's like $100, but I'm gonna probably keep buying them, and I hope that they keep doing it and they get more creative and they do something with that.
The interesting thing about that Soundwave, when you look at the Ravage, it was going to go one of two ways. It was going to be like the OG Takara Tomy Ravage, or it was going to be the solid chunk Ravage that came with the San Diego Comic-Con crossover set with Baroness.
Yep.
So they did the transforming one, which,
I like
cool.
it. I'm looking
I really
forward
like
to it.
the one that came with Baroness, though.
Yeah, I did like that too. Zaymot saying it's happening across the toy landscape. Vintage or even stuff 10 years old is falling in price, and the newest stuff is through the roof.
Well, you're seeing a lot of COVID collectors getting out.
Yeah.
Right. So a lot of those prices they're starting to normalize.
Yep.
But that being said, flags went down, terror drones went up. Yeah. You can find a flag for like $600-700 now.
I'd love to pick one up someday.
But a terror drum
here's something that's just fun. And Chad, I did show this on last week's stream, so but I think it's worth showing again. This little doohickey $10 Family Dollar dune buggy looks a lot like something else. And I just want to show you it does work. I had a hunch, I took it home, and there it is. It fits a G.I. Joe figure great. This is the Desert Scorpion I bought because of your Neon at Night show. And
those colors work.
And it works. I was gonna repaint it and everything, and all I had to do was cut a couple little holes in the foot and the foot pads there. In the floorboard, just so his feet could go through, which is a lot of what you have to do. So I think that's just awesome. I planned on repainting it. I opened the orange one first. I have a blue one and an orange one. I was thinking a Cobra version would be really neat. I don't know what to call it. I was going through some snake names and trying to come up with something cool.
There's an unproduced Cobra vehicle that's based off the Crossfire, but it's not RC. It kind of has the same lines. It just has a covered canopy and different armaments. That was unproduced. Dan Klingensmith has it in his Creating G.I. Joe.
Oh, does he? Is it on
I'll send you the image of it.
Yeah, I'd like to see what it looks like because that'd be cool. And like I said, I have a couple of these. So I wanted to also, because I did some research. It was based on the Nyko Toys Thunder Eagle, which was a RC car of the day. And here I just put all three together. So you could just see how the resemblance really is. And furthermore, I went on eBay and there was a really excellent eBay listing for the Crossfire, which is pretty expensive. And the guy had a ruler on the wheels. And the wheelbase on this matches the wheelbase on the Crossfire. It's almost exactly the same.
Interesting.
Yeah. So I was like, this might even just be, yeah.
Nice.
So it's an awesome vehicle. Very cool. Okay, here's some nice up close pictures just to use. Yeah, I didn't realize how well this orange would just work with the Desert Scorpion, so I kind of like it now. Like,
so good. It looks good.
like I
Now,
think just add
didn't
some
the Joe
weapons
team
and
put
I'm
out an
good.
RC car like 1 or 2 years ago, and it was like a flash in the pan? It's like, hey, here's an RC car, and then it just didn't
they
go
did
anywhere.
a vamp,
You know the one I'm
but
talking
it's
about?
not exactly. Is it that
Yeah,
one?
that one.
Okay,
That one.
Mark II. But can you put a figure in there?
No, look at.
No. Yeah.
That's bummer.
Yeah. That's the only thing that's kind of lame. It's cool, but
it's just like that vacuum formed plastic.
Yeah.
That's all it is.
It's like if you're going to go to the trouble to do it to where the figures can fit in, or don't do it at all.
You can find these on. You can find these. They're cheap. They're like less than $20. So
yeah. They have a lot of really good.
Send a few to friends.
Yeah. 1/18 scale things. So anyway, I looked up like the accessories on Yo-Joe there, and I started just mocking these up. This is only about an hour's worth of work. I just really quick. I know I could add a little more details, but I just wanted to show you and just say I have a couple of these, and I'd love to. I'll once I get time finish those designs, add some ornaments to these. I don't even think I'd paint this one. But the blue one maybe paint up and do something with, but I think that'd be a nice thing. Maybe someone in the community would want one. I don't know. Maybe someone.
I'm just saying the orange one, if you're going to repaint it, that's just screaming Mega Force. I'm just saying.
You got a pretty good idea.
Make it happen.
Okay, so that's it. That's all I got for that. I just wanted to show you that. But I also did want to run through some of this awesome stuff that Joe Rondo sent me. I know we're getting a little late here in the show. But I thought maybe Chad would appreciate that little RC car. He found a World Peacekeepers A10 Thunderbolt.
Ooh.
Nice. I'm curious to how this compares to the TJ Maxx one, which I still haven't been able to find. I've been looking.
That thing is money.
Yeah. And this one is this the
that
same
vehicle is called the Maniac, by the way, and I'm going to send it.
The Maniac. Okay.
I'll send it to you both so you can see it.
Okay. Cool. I want to see that. Yeah. That's a good name, the Maniac. Yep. So yeah, he held his Rattler up here just to show that it's bigger than the Rattler. So
it looks to be the same size as this one from the name of the company is, I always forget it, Toy Association. But it looks to be the same size because the Rattler sizes up to this wingspan the exact same way. And
here is the Slaughter's Marauders Triple T that we were talking about earlier.
Gorgeous.
And he has it, and he has this really nice display with the Sarge, the signed painting there. That's like, is that art? I'll ask him more about the artwork later, but yeah. Really
and we should give a shout out to our buddy Zazel, because he definitely gave me a renewed love for the Sarge as a hero in the line.
Oh, absolutely.
It's really, that's cool.
And Joe Rondo had, I think I watched one of, it was the episode with Joe Rondo when he was talking about, didn't he pick him up from the airport and take him and have steaks with him or something? Him and
Sarge? Yeah. Oh, yeah.
Yeah. That was a great show. So yeah, awesome pictures. This Triple T look at that paint job, how clean that looks. Doesn't that just look
very clean,
crisp and clean? And those stickers, oh boy, those are placed on there very well. You're very nice.
Good job, Joe.
Nice job.
Good sticker work.
Yep.
The thing I dread the most about when assembling my G.I. Joe vehicles was always putting the decals on, because I always was afraid I'd get it wrong.
Flat tweezers, buddy. Flat tweezers and a Q-tip. Scott says G.I. Sorry.
Go ahead.
Scott says G.I. Joe number 48 was his first appearance. That's what I read yesterday. Yes, and Will, I'm sure you remember at Joe Fest, I took my issue 48 to Sarge, and as soon as I held it up, he's like, "Oh yeah, give me that." And there he goes. So not only did he sign the cover, but Sarge knows exactly what page his first panel appearance is on. And then he flip, and he signed right over that panel too.
Yeah. He's such a great guy. He really is.
Yep.
And you know, the Triple T, when you look at it as far as a vehicle design, it's not a terribly practical thing to put on the battlefield, but it's iconic. It's a hero vehicle.
rad.
Everybody knows the Triple T. It's cool.
And then there's a Night Force version too.
Yeah,
Mhm.
true.
Oh, yeah.
And Joe just doing what, awesome guys out in the toy community do, snapping some pictures of cool shit he saw while he was shopping. I do it all the time. But Joe sends me voice messages and talks about them. And then, sends me these pictures, and I just love it. It's just so great. So I'm going to share them with you guys today. This little Shark Marines set, awesome. I love it. That
Does it have freaking lasers?
sub.
You got to have freaking lasers.
Freaking
That
laser
sub
beams.
is in this set freaking awesome. Look at that thing.
That is
love it.
Oh,
neat.
yeah.
I like that. That would be such
These,
an adventure team sub. That'd be cool.
I have a couple of these Harley Davidson motorcycles you find in the diecast aisle at Walmart. Awesome. They work great. And so do these Adventure Force two-wheelers. And these are like less than $10 each. They're so great.
Yeah.
They're such awesome. If you want some cool accessories for your 1/18 scale figures, awesome. He sent me these, and I'm not familiar with, is this
Sasuke?
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 What?
Yeah.
Um,
Sasuke. It means
Sasuke.
ninja. Yeah. Sasuke.
Okay.
Oh,
He just sent these to me.
I
don't
know a
if they're
couple things.
1/18 scale. Hey. He went to Ocean State Job Lot, which is only located in the Northeast, and he did see some really rad stuff here. Look at this. The SWAT version of the click and play helicopter I have comes with
cool.
SWAT figures instead, but it's pretty much the same helicopter. But yeah, that's
Got a little
20
K9
bucks,
unit
man.
there. That's cool.
Yeah,
Oh,
the click and play
yeah.
combat tank.
That Abrams.
So nice. And these accessories that they come with are excellent too. Like
The tank
you see
traps,
there-
the sea wire. Yeah. And those barrels, you can use them all over the place.
yeah.
Have they
So
done a
I love it.
Bradley?
Yeah.
I'd love to see a Bradley in this scale with these.
This
That'd be
command
cool.
set has oh no, it's not this one. The Quonset hut comes with that
Quonset
relief
hut.
map. You know the map accessory that comes in it? It's like a relief war map. Oh, it's so
Yeah.
great. It's like so cool.
Yeah, it's like the sand table kind of a thing.
Yeah, love it. And then you got some wacky Star Trooper stuff that was, never on
Is that
store
Leonard?
shelves. Yeah, this
Yeah.
is like Leonard's decor.
Sweet.
Never made.
Max.
And this was his haul. Look at what Howie Welly did. Those rescue
That
choppers are
helipad
great.
is so good. I love
Dude,
that.
that
frickin'
helipad is $10. Can you believe
Yep.
it's like $10?
That's
Such
awesome.
a good accessory.
And it looks
Yeah.
great.
And the
right off
little
of, like,
bird fits on it?
bow or the stern of your flag.
Ooh, that's an
Such
idea.
such good products. And that Quonset hut and the military base are like $30 each, which is a fantastic deal. But shipping them is going to be a bitch. So if you know someone in the Northeast and you could get them to buy them for you, I'm going to ask my brother to pick them up and just hold them until next time I go up there because I don't want to have them pay to ship them.
So what's the orange chopper? Is that like a Coast Guard or rescue
Yeah.
deal?
Yeah, it's like
Okay,
a
cool.
rescue chopper. And
Nice.
I don't know what I would love to get one. I love freaking helicopter toys. I'm just surrounded by them. This is a Jurassic Park one. This is this one. I got Blue Thunder behind me. I got the MASH helicopter right above me.
Actually, it's a rotary wing aircraft.
That's right. Actually, yeah.
Actually,
you have to use the WEFT acronym, which is Wings, Engine, Fuselage, Tail. Thank you.
There you go.
well, thank
It's
you
a
so
whirly
much,
bird.
Joe Ricondo, for sharing that stuff with me, dude. Keep them coming. I love getting your messages. I love seeing all the things out there. If you want to be like Joe and be an awesome, cool guy out there, you can send me pictures too. I appreciate it.
Paw Patrol and PJ Masks. Don't sleep on that stuff either.
That is good. I've
Good
got
for-
a lot of things
yeah.
I've taken pictures of recently. I'll be posting soon.
Yeah.
But like the RC cars, like that one where it's just that kind of molded top. There's a couple of them I think at Walmart that I just saw that look really neat. There's some
Kit
really
bashing.
good-looking
Kit
vehicles.
bashing is
Yeah.
the way to go. Get your noodle going. Get your imagination on. You can have a lot of fun with that.
All right. Well,
not
hey
hard.
guys, usually the show is much shorter, so thank you everyone for hanging out and sticking with us.
talk too
Chad,
much.
thank you so much for coming on and
Thanks.
talking. Anyone in the chat that I didn't get to your message, I'm really sorry. I'm not used to having this. This is like double what we're usually used to having in the chat. So thank you so much to anyone that came over here.
Scott said kid bashing.
That's a different subject.
I mean, if they deserve it, you know.
Yep.
Well, speaking of shameless plugs, later today, for those of you who are the big boys, I'm going to be doing a AT-76. We're going to go do some Adventure Team fun kit bashing. So check that out.
Rad.
Yeah. When is that going? When is that going on?
I think I set it up for 6 my time. I'm not sure.
Okay.
For premiere, but I might move it up. Whenever we finish here, I'll probably move it up to where.
Chad, you're getting on with JLS Comics tonight.
Yep, 7 p.m. Eastern. JLS Comics is going to join me. Yeah,
cool. Yeah, I definitely want to move mine up. I don't want to step on the Chad's toes. He's got some cool stuff going on.
And then later on tonight, we've got Helladope Toys doing their Sunday hangout, which is just an awesome good time. So if you want to check that out,
yeah, and they'll have random diorama on, so that'll be good.
Oh, that's cool. Right. Yes, this is going to be the flocking
Mossmobile, baby.
Yeah, yeah. That guy is fantastic. But guys, I just want to thank you so much for tuning in. And once again, thank you, Chad. Thank you, Jim. That Delta 17 looks awesome. Get those mechs pictures in today. Next Sunday, tune in. We're going to go over all of the awesome mechs that people made and talk about some other stuff too. I don't know. And Chad said he'll be back. He said he'll be back every week. So if you're expecting Chad, you could, he's going to pop in every single week. He's agreed to do this permanently.
Just to eat your chips.
Yep. Yeah. Just as long as I lay some chips out on the table, he'll hang out and eat them.
Hey, great minds think alike. I love the sense of humor. I love the the love for this era or this corner of collecting. So it's always fun to hang out with you guys. I always have a good time.
Yeah, you guys are fantastic people. It's always a blast.
All right, guys. Chad, you got anything to say? Sign us out. I'm just going to say thanks, everyone. See you next time.
Thanks to Will and Jim. Make sure you leave a comment below so you guys can talk some Joe and have an awesome day.